Today on Network Africa, famine has been declared in parts of South Sudan, the first to be announced in 6 years. And fire ripped through a local suburb in Nigeria's commercial capital, destroying dozens of homes. Plus, traders in Nigeria make profit from renewed appetite for grasshoppers. It's the first edition of the program for the week, and it's great to have you. I am Bisi Adebayo. Let's kick off the show with happenings over the weekend.
A blast from a suicide car bomb ripped through a market in the Somali capital Mogadishu on Sunday, killing 39 people and injuring at least 50. This event happens days after the country elected a new president. Casualties were confirmed by Ahmed Abdoulaye Afraks, the mayor of Wadajir, a district of the city where the bombing happened. Al-Shabaab, the militant insurgent group that is fighting the UN-backed Somali government, did not immediately claim responsibility. The insurgent group has been able to carry out increasingly deadly bombings despite losing most of its territory to African Union peacemakers supporting the Somali government. This month, Somalia elected a new president, Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed, a dual U.S. Somali citizen and former prime minister. Elsewhere, a senior UN human rights official visiting South Sudan has expressed concern about the human rights violations of the thousands of internally displaced people in the country. Andrew Gilmore, Assistant Secretary General for Human Rights, particularly pointed out rampant rape and abductions in the world's youngest nation during a visit to South Sudan's second-largest city, Malakal.
There are many stories of how men go out and they will be abducted and killed. Now, on the other hand, women feel they have to go out in order to try to buy some goods in order to sell them back in the camp, or to try to raise some small amounts of money somehow, but they risk being raped by security forces. So there is this terrible choice that women living here have to face. The choice is being raped or not having even the most basic supplies and ability of livelihood.
At the end of the 4-day visit to South Sudan, the UN Assistant Secretary General for Human Rights called for accountability on both sides of the conflict for the violations. Then in Zimbabwe, people and the ruling ZANU-PF party see no viable alternative candidate to President Robert Mugabe for general elections in 2018. Grace Mugabe, the wife of the president, has warned contemporaries of Mr. Mugabe from the guerrilla war era that they are not in a position to replace him because they likewise will be too old. Mugabe has been in power in the southern African country since 1980, and in December, his party confirmed him as its candidate for the next presidential election, expected in mid-2018, when he will be 94.
For the first time in 6 years, famine has been declared in parts of South Sudan. The government and the United Nations report that 100,000 people are currently facing starvation, with 1 million more on the brink of famine. The combination of civil war and economic collapse have been blamed for the situation, but there have been warnings of famine in Yemen, Somalia and northeastern Nigeria, but South Sudan is the first to declare one. Last week, the UN World Food Programme warned that more than 20 million people may face starvation in a series of famines over the next 6 months. And over now to Somalia, where the new president has announced a reward of $100,000 for information on anyone planning attacks on civilians. President Mohamed Abdullah's announcement comes after his visit to survivors of the worst bomb attack in Somalia since he took office last week. At least 34 people were killed and about 50 injured when a car blew up in the capital Mogadishu's southern Medina district on Sunday. Militant Islamic group Al-Shabaab has waged an insurgency in Somalia for more than a decade and has vowed to target Mr. Mohammed's supporters. Mr. Hamid, please. pleads with the public to share information on possible attacks with the security agencies. However, analysts say many Somalis do not trust the security agencies, which are accused of corruption, human rights abuses, and factionalism. And Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe says he agrees with U.S. President Donald Trump's America for Americans policy. In his first comments on Mr. Trump's candidacy, Mr. Mugabe said although he was surprised by his election victory, he still didn't want Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton to win. He believes Mr. Trump should be given a chance to prove himself. In the meantime, Mr. Mugabe has been nominated by ZANU-PF as its candidate in the next year's presidential election. Mr. Mugabe has ruled Zimbabwe since independence in 1980. Back here in Nigeria, many homes have been destroyed in a fire that saw through Ebute-Metta in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, on Sunday. There were no reported casualties from the fire, which started around 7 p.m. Residents say the fire was caused by a power surge. Ebute-Metta is a community along the Lagos Lagoon where sawmills process timber brought from across Nigeria.
The fire started exactly that point there. So you understand, we get there, but we discovered that the fire already spread under the roof. So we try to quench it, there's no way. So we now come out to take our property out. This is my wife's shop. So before we get there, the fire already spread at the back of the shop. So these are our fridge that we lose. If you can see, we lose everything. We have lost almost 3 freezer, fridge, my generator, everything.
Staying with happenings in Nigeria, the Nigerian Air Force is giving free Medicare to some returning internally displaced persons in Gwoza local government area of Borno State. The beneficiaries, mostly women and children, are housed in the Wakani camp in Gwoza. This is the first intervention by the Nigerian Air Force in Gwoza since its liberation.
There are over 50,000 internally displaced persons living in Gwoza local government. They are dealing with one ailment or the other, associated with poor hygiene or the living condition in the camps. The IDPs, mostly elderly people, are happy with the efforts of the Air Force, which supplements the overstretched resources of the MSF already operating in Gwoza.
We are grateful to them for their help, and we pray God continues to help them and grant them success in their work.
The intervention dealt with issues that had to do with eye-related problems, deworming of children, general checkup for nursing and pregnant mothers, as well as distribution of free mosquito nets. The Director, Humanitarian Services of the Nigerian Air Force, Air Commodore Harold Onyechi, says the outreach program is continuous.
The main thing is that the things we can treat here, we treat. The things we cannot treat here, we note them and then decide where else we shall treat them.
At the completion of the first part of the intervention program in Gwoza, the team has discovered an urgent need for the treatment of elderly people with eye problems. But the Navy 105 Composite Group Medical Center is planning to arrange for surgery where necessary.
In the nearest future, we are going to deploy a team of ophthalmologists to come and assess this category of individuals for necessary surgical intervention, which we have conducted in the past among internally displaced persons camp in Dalori and Bakassi camps in Maiduguri. So within the shortest time possible, we are going to come back to Gwoza to identify those who need surgeries, and we'll gather them, convey them using our helicopters to Maiduguri and carry out the surgical operations.
Beneficiaries are grateful to the Nigerian Air Force and other agencies for giving them medical attention at no cost.
They have given us mosquito nets, which I intend to use so that mosquitoes will not bite me and make me sick. I am grateful.
The Dalori IDP camp in Maiduguri and the camp in Bama already have hospitals established and run by the medical wing of the Air Force.